Not starting yet because I said I'd start at 4 o'clock. It's not 4 o'clock yet. So I'm just using the book. I had meant to arrange a mount so that, oh, look at that, it's terrible with the light shining on it. That's better. I had meant to have a thing, you know, like I was going to use a microphone stand and lock it to that, and it just didn't. It just took too long. I've been out in the garden. I've been gardening. Anyway, that isn't why I'm here. I'm gonna start any minute now. They're all good. There's some people watching. Very good. I haven't. Also, if you're a Patreon supporter, I feel really bad because I haven't put this on Patreon. I'm going to try and do that now. Oh, I can't even remember how to do it. It's too late now. Yeah, because I did try. I've tried some of these on Patreon. Anyway, I'm very sorry about that. This will get more professional as the days pass. I'll find a way of having a sign up. Now, I did think of something. Oh yeah, I've thought of lots of things. Yeah. Anyway, there we go. Can we have a new world win? There's lots of questions. I mustn't look. I mustn't look. Anyway, what's the time now? Is it? Oh, it's very near. Anyway, there we go. That's enough. I can't be doing with all that. Has it focused again? Yes, it has. Hello, and welcome to Fully Charged Live News Live. And as you can see, I've scrubbed up. I've made an effort because I was in my gardening clothes, and I thought I really should try and make an effort and present a sensible, adult, mature person. So I'm still organizing things. I've got everything plugged in. I'm hoping you can hear me clearly. I'm hoping the microphone is... Someone, I've just seen a comment that said, don't get too professional. I think we're safe. I don't think that's going to happen. What I'm concerned about now, and I'm just going to do final checks. It's not quite 4 o'clock yet. I'm doing final checks to make sure that I'm using the right microphone. Yes, I am. Good. Excellent. Because I want you to be able to hear. Before I start, just for completely unrelated to Fully Charged, I printed out this. This is the poster for the new series of Red Dwarf, the new episode of Red Dwarf, The Promised Land. And it comes to Dave, only in the UK, comes to Dave on the 9th of April. There we go. So for those of you who don't know, I'm trying to point. That is me there. Oops. Yeah, that's me for my sins. It's a job I've been doing for the last 32 years. We just made another series, so that is very good. It is now 3:58. You can hear you clearly. Suit on a Sunday can only mean one thing. I wonder what it means. Does it mean I'm going to church? Can't. Church is closed. Job interview. Yeah. Yes. Can you please give me a job as a really rubbish newsreader? Now, there's another thing I forgot to do, because one of the things that someone commented on was, can you please just use ordinary reading glasses to read the comments? Because when I go like that to look through, these are very focals, you can see up my nose, which is never pleasant. Shouldn't touch your face, but I have just washed my hands and I'm very, very isolated. I haven't been near other people for a long time. Hello from the Czech Republic. Hi, Czech Republic. so close. Oh, a court case. I'm getting ready to go to court. Yes, my lad. I was driving that electric vehicle at the time of the incident. So we're going to go. We're going to do some news. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some news stories, and then I will try and answer some questions. But I'm trying to do the whole thing in under 30 minutes. That is my thing. So quite a lot under 30 minutes. Hello from Cork and Madrid. I've been to Cork and Madrid. They're both beautiful cities. And Amsterdam, been there many times. And I shouldn't. Faroe Islands. Oh, my goodness. United States, been there. Bulgaria, never. Ghana, never. I'd love to. Georgia. Portugal, been there. Wonderful. And I talked about a certain car in Portugal, which in Portuguese is a slightly rude name. I'm not going to do it now because it's a cheap joke. And I don't want to be rude to lovely Portuguese people. Is he ready for the news? Yes, it's 4 o'clock, and welcome to the Fully Charged News Update live from Studio One. Very excited for you to join me today. We certainly currently have just over 1,000 viewers, which is very, very, very wonderful. I'm really thrilled that you're all joining me on this. Well, it's been a beautiful day here in the United Kingdom. on these damp islands off the coast of Europe. It's been gorgeous, sunny, blue sky. I will make one comment about the thing. Now, I'm not mentioning the thing. You know what I mean when I say the thing. That sky that I can see over there, I've talked about this a few times recently. I don't want to be too boring, but is usually streaked with vapor trails from many, many passenger aircraft that fly between London, I would say also Paris and the United States. And that is the flight path that's used. So you really see a lot. You can look up and sometimes see 10, 12 planes flying over at once, both ways. I know they come back that way. That's right. They come back a different way. Nothing, not one vapor trail all day. I've been out in the garden all morning. That is beside the point. That's the only mention I'll make of the thing. But, just like everyone around the globe, we are struggling to maintain the output of the Fully Charged show on YouTube. We're really grateful for all the support we get. I want to do a particular shout out right now to our Patreon supporters, because normally I would have posted a link to this on the Patreon page. There's no excuse. I didn't not do it on purpose. I totally and utterly forgot. I'm a numpty. So I'm sorry about that, lovely Patreon supporters, but we really appreciate the support you do. And if you are the least bit interested in supporting Fully Charged, and I completely understand how that's quite a big ask at the moment, there will be links when we finish this. I'll put all the links in beneath this video and the links to the stories. But we've got an amazing team at Fully Charged that help make this show and help make it possible. It is extraordinary. So I do want to kind of really thank. We're all working at home. We've just moved into a new office. There's a bit of irony. Lovely new office in Bristol. Lots more room, lots more stuff, and all the desks and the editing stuff, so we can produce more. And now no one's there. It's empty all the time. Yeah. We go in to get things. So I go in and get a camera, and then we come back out, and then someone else goes in another time to get something good anyway. But I just want to thank the amazing production team, and specifically who are producing videos, which is Ben, Stuart, Andrew, James, George, and Martin. They're the kind of core team. There's other camera operators we occasionally call on to do stuff, but they're the real core team for their fabulous efforts. Really, seriously, guys, if you're watching, which I hope you're not, I hope you're doing something else. But if you are watching, thank you very sincerely. And thank you, I think, from the audience that watch the shows, because you do an amazing job. And then, of course, on the other side, although it is a harder and difficult thing to even understand what's going on, Dan Caesar, who runs the company, but also runs and organizes the live shows that we're doing. So in the next 18 months, we hope after the thing, we hope there is an after the thing. We will do a live show in October this year in the UK, then one in the spring of 2021 in Austin, Texas, one in the summer of 2021 in the United Kingdom, and one in the autumn/fall of 2021 in Amsterdam. That is our fervent desire and hope. And Dan Caesar runs a brilliant team. The people who organize those shows are amazing. I'm not going to list them now. I'm sorry, Dan, Chris, Sophie. That's all I can remember at the moment, but they are wonderful and they're doing an amazing job. So everything has been a bit postponed, and that is, as we all know, the new normal. But let's not dwell on the negatives, viewers. Let's not do that, because the whole purpose of doing this episode is to highlight some of the positive developments in the clean tech and electric vehicle cosmos. But I just want to quickly underline the basic stuff, the basic notion that it is the driving force of Fully Charged, which is about stopping burning stuff. That is the kind of critical thing. It took a while for that to coalesce in my fetid old brain, but it is very much about that we've been burning stuff since the beginning, the dawn of human time, if you like. From when we were in caves, we were burning. When we learned to burn stuff, everything got better. We could cook food, we could stay warm when it was cold. Fire is an incredibly useful thing. It's what's driven the human race to achieve the things we've done. But we've reached a point now where I would suggest we now understand the difficulties of burning stuff and what that results in on a planet-wide level. And our little pale blue dot is kind of a little bit sort of turning into a pale grey dot, except at the moment when it's really clean, but we're not talking about the thing. I just think that we need to try and move as far as we can away from burning stuff. And this first really hit me the first time I charged an electric car off solar panels at my house, because I knew when I drove that car, I drove it down to, there's actually an episode on it on Fully Charged from a long time ago, for I think 2011. I drove to a water mill in Dorset, and I charged the car at the watermill. So the journey there was powered by solar. The journey back was powered by water, which was an amazing thing. And I thought that is the first time anyone's done that kind of thing using a technologically advanced machine and hasn't burnt any fuel at all. Because you can't, you couldn't even say, oh, well, you burn coal to make the electricity. No. Well, you burn gas to make the electricity. No, none, not one bit. And that, to be able to do that, I think is I felt it was an incredible privilege to do that far back. Still is an incredible privilege. So it's all about not burning stuff. That is the kind of the gist of it. Now, it's a pie in the sky notion that we can stop burning stuff to do everything. But we can approach a point where we burn very, very little. We really do. We barely burn anything, but we can still do the things we need to do. So if you think of renewable energy, all of it is about not burning stuff. I don't think it's conscious, it's just the way it works. If you don't burn anything, you don't need fuel. You don't need to dig stuff up and transport it around the world and refine it and store it and then burn it for a few seconds. You can use materials more than once. These are all the things we're learning. So, you build a big wind turbine and it runs for 25 or 30 years. Then you take it down and you recycle it, all the metal in it. And the one part you can't recycle at the moment is the blades. There's been lots of stories about that. But now there's a company that is recycling the blades because it's useful material. And they're using it as insulation boards in building sites. So the less we burn, I think the better. That's the gist of it. So I wish I could read the comments. I don't know. They all look wonderful. Someone burnt their toast this morning, which is... Sorry. You are so clever. I love when I see comments like that. So try not to burn your toast. Can you heat toast without burning? Yeah, my toaster here runs off solar panels. What am I saying? Yeah. I'm not burning anything to burn my toast. I do burn an enormous amount of toast. I'm hoping the bits of paper that I'm rattling aren't too annoying. Sorry, I'll try and keep it stiller. Regular viewers will know, this is my first story, regular viewers will know that I do love a digger. I was very privileged to be able to use lots and lots of diggers in my previous career in broadcast television. I've actually operated the biggest hydraulic digger in the world in a quarry in Yorkshire. It had to be transported there in parts and built in the quarry. It is massive. You can park 2 large transit vans in the bucket, nose to nose. That's how big it was really big. It was brilliant. Love digging. I dig up big lumps of rock that were basically the size of a small house. Each rock was. It was just fabulous. Exactly the same operation as using a regular digger, a little tiny mini digger in your house. It didn't feel any different. Anyway, I love a digger. As some of you regular viewers will know, I was using an electric digger in my garden to bury the 3-phase power cable. That was an amazing digger. That was a JCB one. Well, the American construction equipment manufacturer, Case Production Equipment, has introduced Project Zeus. I love this. According to the manufacturer, this 580 EV is to be the construction industry's first fully electric backhoe loader. Now, if you don't know, if you're not an aficionado of diggers, when you see basically a tractor with a big bucket on the front and a big and the back, that is a backhoe. And that was the original kind of hydraulic digger after the war. That was, in fact, Mr. Bamford stuck a digger arm on the back of a tractor. And that's where the backhoe notion came from. And that's where JCB are from. Loads of other people copied him. JCB claim they were the first people to do it. I don't know. I don't want to get into that argument. But this is a 100% electric backhoe digger. So it's a tractor that can drive along a big thing. It's a big chunky thing. It runs on a 480 volt system. And basically all it is an electric motor that drives a load of hydraulic pumps. It has a 90 kilowatt hour battery. And it can be charged with a 220 volt 3-phase connection. So that will charge it pretty quickly, like in an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. And Case added that applications will vary. Oh, I've forgotten the most important point, because I have an illustration to show you from the webpage. All the links to these will be in the show notes after the show. There it is. So that is how big. I'm just trying to make sure that's in focus. It's big. That's a big, it's not a little digger like I had, a mini digger. It's a big, chunky backhoe digger with a great big, powerful arm. So there you go. That's the web page that I saw about it on there. Where is it? There. So I was meant to do that. Sorry, I forgot that. And also, I was going to say that when I read this story, because I do love a digger, the two things happened. One, I went past a digger wholesaler. I'd been past loads of time, and I suddenly realized it was Case. It was the Case company. So I thought they were just American. No, they're here in the UK. And I was, as my grandma said, cock a hoop about it. Let's move on. Let's just discreetly move on. So the links to that will be under there. So I think, I think this shows us more than anything. We already know there's lots and lots of examples around the world of electric earth movers, diggers. There's some massive ones in quarries in Norway. There is the fabulous, super huge, like 60-ton truck that is used in a quarry in Switzerland. There's been a lot of stories about it because it's such a unique thing. If you haven't seen it, I'll do it very quickly. Quarry site where they're sorting out all the rocks at the bottom of mountain, actual quarry right up high in the mountain. So what you've got an electric, this is one of those massive quarry trucks, not a little van, huge, 60 tons. And it goes up there, it's electric, only electric, goes up the windy track up the mountain to the quarry. It gets filled with, 80 tons of rocks. I don't know, lots and lots of tons, massive amount. Then it goes down. As it goes down, it's regenning under phenomenal pressure. Just imagine. So it's 4-wheel drive, huge wheels that are, 10 foot, 12 foot tall, massive things. And it's going, and it's driving the motors like mad as it's going down to keep the speed down. When it gets to the bottom, they unload the rocks. They dump some of the charge in the batteries into the grid because it's generated more electricity coming down the hill than it used to get up. Extraordinary, isn't it? There you go. But that is a unique quarry because generally quarries are down in a hole and then you've got to come up with a load. So you go down empty and come up with a load, which would mean you lose a lot more electricity. Still better than using diesel. Wonderful thing that I'm really excited about is how we store renewable energy. This is where the huge drive is. Obviously, electric cars and vehicle to grid stuff and all that. Don't knock the mic. Sounds annoying. All that stuff is the kind of really exciting stuff that we're all aware of. But it's worth mentioning these other things. Now, at the moment, all the big grid batteries, ones I've seen in California, the ones that are in Australia, they're all lithium-ion battery huge boxes, rows and rows of these massive boxes. And they work and they're really good and they're making money. They're not uneconomic. They're very, very effective and they work very quickly, particularly because they're so fast. So if there is a drop in power supply and there's a high demand, you turn on the batteries in like a thousandth of a second. You don't even notice. They just dump their power. But I'm just interested in alternatives, really massive energy storage, because that's what we don't want to store 400 megawatt hours. We do. We want to store 400 gigawatt hours. It's that scale that we really need to make renewable energy 100% reliable across the year, across all weather scenarios. So thousands of scientists around the world are working on, and scientists and engineers are working on ways of storing renewable energy. Well, and so what this story, an aluminium battery, a molten aluminium battery. It doesn't make any sense. It's a heat battery. So what they're doing is they're using solar or wind. At the moment, it's just solar power. The electricity is used to heat up huge amounts of aluminium alloy, a specific aluminium alloy, and it heats it up to very high temperatures. So when you've turned aluminium alloy from a solid into a liquid, that means it's quite hot. Now, obviously, that heat needs to be stored in a way that it contains that heat. The insulation has to be phenomenal, but it can be stored for a long time. And when there is a demand for that, the energy that's stored in there, because what you're doing there is you're storing gigawatt hours of energy in the form of molten aluminium, a really common product, and they're talking about recycled. They're using it recycled, and I've got the image from the Good News Network. Got to remember to do this. Look at this. That's the web page. Oh, there we go. Breakthrough solar system uses recycled aluminium to store energy. Yeah. Without batteries. No, that is really exciting. So it kind of is a battery. It's a heat battery, but it isn't a chemical battery like a lithium-ion battery. So it stores the heat, and then it runs that when you demand the heat back, you run that heat through, you produce steam, and you produce heat. Runs a Stirling engine, and I have seen a Stirling engine. I do understand, but I don't want to talk about it for too long. But if you Google Stirling engine, if you don't know what it is, but it's essentially a heat engine. It's a lot of heat on one side of a cylinder and a piston inside it, and that pushes the piston, and then a lot of cooler on the other side that pushes it back. It's basically like an internal combustion engine, but it doesn't burn anything. So that turns a flywheel, the flywheel turns a generator, the generator produces electricity. And I'm doing it on this scale. We're talking massive things. So Stirling engines can be huge. So we're talking the potential to have a multiple gigawatt power plant that is run entirely off solar. Where are they installing this first? And they've already done it. It's in a huge solar farm in Morocco. Will they be working on it right now? Possibly not, because of the thing. But it's worth keeping that in mind. I'm going to keep following that story. This is a Swedish company that developed this, and they are called Azilio, and they've developed the aluminium heat battery, which can store huge amounts of power. I mean, that's the real critical thing, because to store multiple gigawatts of power in lithium-ion batteries is just a huge challenge to produce that many batteries. Whereas this is just get a bigger tank with more aluminium, and it's particularly if it's waste aluminium, if it's second-hand aluminium, if it's recycled aluminium. We've got a lot of it in the world. So you would store vast amounts of that heat. Now, you would probably store that underground, particularly in a desert like in Morocco. You dig a huge hole and it would be an insulated tank with molten aluminium in. It's how they run the big reflector solar farms, where they heat molten salt. They can store vast amounts of molten salt at 2,500 degrees centigrade in big tanks underground, so it's not losing the heat. So I think you can store it for, I don't know where, I was going to say months. Definitely weeks, but certainly for many hours, very efficiently, with very little heat loss and very little energy loss. So if you want to know more about Stirling engines, there's loads of stuff on. There's lots of YouTube videos about Stirling engines. They're very good. So that's Azilio. Oh yeah, here's the other one. So when the head engineer, of course, whose name I didn't record, but it's in that article. The head engineer was asked how long the materials in this battery system would last, this heat battery system would last. His quote was, "It will only last 62,000 years." So that's the other thing. All forms of chemical battery have natural losses over time. They don't hold as much energy as they did when they were new. Molten aluminium, forget it. It just lasts a long time. Heat batteries, I like them. I just want to mention a couple of car-y things, and a bikey and scootery thing. And how long have I been doing? Oh, not too long. So we could do some questions. I might try and do, someone just said, I'm not sure streaming is the best medium for this subject. I did say at the beginning, so there's some people who haven't watched. I'm not having to go to court. I just thought I'd try and do a professional job of reading the news. I'm not doing that well at the moment, but I'm struggling on. There's only a couple more little stories I just want to cover. Audi e-tron. Now, we've tested the Audi e-tron on fully charged. It wasn't the most fuel-efficient vehicle, but it's a really tough, strong car. I've now met two people in the UK that drive them, and they are obsessed with them. They love them. Again, it's a bit like the Jaguar I-Pace. It is people who've never had an electric car before that will buy an I-Pace, or in this case, an e-tron. An e-tron, they have sold, webpage, 32,000. I'm really, oh no, I'm doing it down the wrong place. Professional. I'm going to get this right so I can share screens. Don't tell me. I know I can share screens. I'm having some help, which will be a lot better. But there, look at that. That is the Porsche Taycan. So the Audi e-tron sold 32,000 cars, which I'm really impressed with that's happened. That sounds like a lot, because it's an expensive big SUV. So it shows that there is an element of the wealthy middle class who've got some brains. They're not buying yet another diesel SUV. At least they're buying an electric one. So I take my very small cap off to them. And the Porsche has had 15,000 orders. They've signed purchase agreements. That means they've made a contractual commitment to buying the Porsche Taycan. 15,000 Porsche Taycans. When I saw it incredibly briefly at our show in Texas before the thing at Austin, Texas, it's just, I'm not very good at appreciating the beauty of cars, as many long-term viewers will know. That's not my thing. You know, I think cars all look sort of pretty much the same. And then I looked at that Porsche and I went, that is stunning. It does look amazing. I mean, it's crazy. It's a really expensive, very fast sports car. That's what Porsche do, but it's beautiful. And there's 15,000 people going to buy them. And it charges faster than any other car on the road, if you can find the charger, and only when it's really empty. Because, as always, these are small numbers in comparison with the total global sales of fossil fuel burning vehicles. But at the moment, due to the thing, no one's buying anything. And the one bit of statistics that we know that we saw up until recently is that all car sales are falling off a cliff. It is quite concerning. And this is pre-thing. This was happening last year. So, and particularly diesel sales. And the only type of vehicle where there's a really marked increase in sales, not hybrids, not plug-in hybrids, pure 100% electric is going up like that. So it's starting at an incredibly low rate. I'm not trying to cover that up. It's still, but it's getting up. It's going above 2% of vehicle sales, which is what's really important. I mean, one of the reasons it will go above 2% of vehicle sales is because the total sales of vehicles will drop so much. Suddenly electric vehicles will be 50%, even though they're not selling that many more. That is a bit of my rubbish maths. I've got trousers on. I've got trousers on. I will show you in a moment that I have trousers on. Hot rods, bikes and scooters in France. Oh my God, I've just seen this story and I just thought it was very funny. Last webpage. I'll make sure that you can see it. There we go. Oh dear. Oh, don't tune up your hot rod e-bike or your scooters. Otherwise, you're going to be thrown in La Slammer. Yeah. I've had a go on a couple of e-bikes that have been tuned up and they're quite frightening because they're like motorbikes, you know, and I've got an e-bike, the Go Cycle, and that's sensible. It hasn't been zushed up, and I don't think you could zush that one up. It would be quite difficult. But quite a lot of them, people hack into the software or they do a little bit of an adjustment here and there, and they get more power. And they can be, you know, very dangerous if you're not used to it. To ride they're basically motorbikes. And there's loads of video examples on YouTube of people on mountain bikes that are that can go up to like 60 miles an hour. 80, 100 kilometers an hour, you know, on a push bike with handlebars and brakes that aren't meant for being a motorbike. You know, that is my worry. So the French have got a bit moody about it. They've got a little bit, but not just bikes, also scooters. Now, a couple of weeks ago when I was in London, a guy went past on a scooter. He had helmet and gloves on and a backpack and a leather jacket, but he's on a stand-up scooter. He was not doing under 35 miles an hour. I swear it. I could not believe how fast that thing was going. And you're standing up, you've got, I don't even want to think about it. So it is possible to do it. So people are clearly pushing the boundaries of what is, you know, safe and legal. But things have got a little bit tasty in France. If you fiddle with your e-bike software, you could end up with a massive fine or a stint in prison. It may seem a little harsh, and I think this is a law that is being talked about being introduced, but clearly they've got more of a problem with it in France. You know, I think you know, because e-bikes, there's a lot of amazing French e-bikes. Moustache brand is a very popular one, but they also all have a fairly powerful electric motor, and a little electric motor, it can be really powerful and push you along. So, you know, well, here's the great one is when people go, well, they don't anymore, but when they did go, electric cars are dangerous. I won't hear them coming. They'll run me over. They're silent killers. And God, anyway, so that argument has faded. But I tell you what, electric bikes at high speed, there's no warning at all. So unless the rider is hyper vigilant and has really good brakes, you know, I think there is a danger of that. I think there already have been accidents where, you know, it's the only passenger accident I've ever had in my life. So that's not a car hitting a car, but that's me hitting a passenger, a pedestrian, was when I was on a bike and a woman stepped out right in front of me on Oxford Street with a massive wheelie bag. She did not even glance over her shoulder to see if anyone was coming. And I was riding on my bike, wanged into her wheelie bag, went flying off. She was fine. She carried on walking and went, sorry. I was lying in a heap on the floor, my front wheel all bent in. So yes, it can be dangerous. So that's it. I don't want to do any more. There is another story about all the electric buses in Manchester. How many are they doing? 105 electric buses being introduced onto the streets of Manchester, which is brilliant. Double deckers. Really pleased that they're doing that. They can drive, these buses can do 190 miles on a single charge. That's a double-decker bus. That is incredible. They're basically built in the UK by Dennis Limited. So when you see Dennis on the front of a bus in this country, that's who make it. But of course, the actual underlying technology is from BYD, a Chinese company that make lots and lots of buses. So that's it. How have I done? I've done it in 26 minutes, my little stories. I will now read some things, some questions. So if you've got any, if you've been to church, if you've got any questions that I might be able to, battery buses cannot climb hills are very sweet. I went up a hill in a battery bus, not a hill, a mountain. Yes, they can. Battery buses, their motors are always more powerful than any diesel engine. Don't need gears because they don't need to have that high speed spinning. They're much better. Sorry, you're wrong. I have a Renault Megane who runs on diesel. I am thinking we're selling it and getting an electric car. What do you recommend? I mean, I'm the worst person. I am the worst person to even suggest it. But I mean, if you like Renaults, I've just test driven the latest Renault Zoe. They are such brilliant cars. And the GT line R135 is a little bit nippier than the standard Renault Zoe, but they're just great. So I would say that, but I don't know how big a Megane is. It's big, isn't it? I don't know my cars well enough. You see, even though I do a show about cars. Do Crichton. I find it very hard to do unless I'm covered in rubber. Oh, Crichton. Robert is reading the news live on YouTube. That's about as good as I can do. Hi from Italy, love fully charged. Do you believe we could have stations for mechanically remove and exchange the batteries, and cars manufacturers will follow? Thank you. This is an idea that has been looked at in enormous depth. If you Google Better Place, it was an Israeli company that did exactly this. You would drive in a particular Renault car, it would take out the battery, put in a new battery fully charged in a matter of seconds, and you drive off. Tesla did a demonstration with a Model S where they took the battery out, they put another battery in, they could do it faster than you could fill a tank in a petrol car. It is technically possible. There's a Chinese company called NIO who run a network from Beijing to somewhere else in China, a long way, where there's 2 or 3 battery swap stations, and they can swap the batteries out in a number of seconds, literally a number of seconds. And I think it will come into play possibly more likely in commercial vehicles than private cars. But that's, yes, so it has been done. There's a lot of problems with it, because if you like my car out there, I mean, admittedly I lease it, but at the moment, you know, I'm paying for that battery. Do I want to swap that battery for a rubbish battery? I know that battery is really good. So, you know, there's lots of issues. And also every single car has a completely different design of batteries. So you're going to have just one design for all cars that they all have to adhere to. I've met lots of car companies. I would say that ain't going to happen. What about virtual fully charged live, Second Life or something? But yeah, wouldn't that be good? Might not get butts in the seats, but yes. Thank you. You are going to visit Arrival? Yes, last week. And what's happened? The thing. So we've just done we're about to do a podcast with some of the Arrival team, because they're amazing. Arrival are a British company that are making brilliant delivery vans and buses. Am I meant to say that? Because I think they haven't announced that. Arrival are a British company that are making brilliant delivery vans. Battery replacement will not work. Too expensive. Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's the other thing. It's nearly as quick to charge the car. You know, that's the point, is you can charge it, and you charge. How often do people drive from one end of Europe to the other? How often do people drive from London to Scotland? Well, there's quite a few of them at the moment. They're camper vans, but I'm not going to mention the thing. But, you know, it doesn't happen very often. And if you can charge your car at home or on the street with all the new, amazing, there's a whole street now in London where every parking space has chargers on it in West London. You know, it is happening. A standard non-electric bike, ban them all or none. This is totally, yes, you could be right. I don't know. It depends. Yes, I think it's a difficult one. Have you heard of Samsung solid state batteries? Yes. I know. Solid state batteries. Okay, they will, without question, we will see, most of you will see solid state batteries in your lifetime. There are things called diamond batteries that we're hoping to do an episode about, which is basically using low-level nuclear waste from old nuclear power plants to make tiny batteries that could run things like the hearing aids. And you wouldn't need, you would buy a hearing aid, you would have an hearing aid put in, and it would never need recharging. The battery would last longer than the human being wearing it. We're talking batteries that could power a phone that just runs the phone until the phone breaks. What you do with it at the end of that, I don't know. But there are battery technologies that are emerging that are truly ground shifting. I think diamond batteries aren't any good for cars. I don't think they scale up to that scale, but really, really small batteries, brilliant thing for for sensors and for remote, routers and things like that. Brilliant. And for phones and hearing aids and things like that. Solid state batteries. I've seen some examples in laboratories. They work now. People can make a solid state battery. It is refining it to a degree where it can be commercially produced. I think is still some way away, but I think it will happen, and it will transform the industry because it means you can make a really small light battery, which is the thing we want, is a small light battery that doesn't have an enormous range, but that charges like that. And that is going to be fine. Most people, once you get used to it, you don't drive. I've driven, long distances in electric cars half a dozen times simply because I wanted to try it out. People don't do it that much, far more in the United States than here or in Australia. But even then, most people spend most of the time tootling about their local neighborhood. I'm not going to go over. I've done 32 minutes. You think doing a show on Algarve in Portugal, I guarantee you would have a lot of people attending the show. But don't forget that Algarve is the most sunny place in Europe. Oh, I love the Algarve and I love Portugal. We can't go, we're not allowed. Maybe, yeah. Who's Dave? He's an incredibly seductive, charming, charismatic young stud. Oh, God, I'm just trying to find, there we go. I think that's probably, I'm just trying to see, you think, autonomous vehicles. Well, I mean, yes, I think the thing will impact on everything in our lives. So shared autonomous vehicles. I was doing a conference a video conference on Friday. It was meant to be on stage. It was going to be a panel on stage, but of course it was cancelled. But so we did it online. It was very interesting. And I did say then, it suddenly struck me. I went, I don't think I'd want to use a shared, because we talk about shared vehicles, how important it is to share vehicles. And I've used Zipcar in London. We've done a show about it, and it's a brilliant system. They've got loads of electric e-golfs. They're so easy to do. You just walk up to it and you get off you go. And you don't have to take it back to a specific point. That's always a good thing. You just leave it wherever you've gone to. That's like Car2Go in Berlin. That was the very first big car sharing thing we did. Now, all of a sudden I'm going, I don't know if I want to get in a shared car, because I have to be really careful because I'm quite old. That makes me a little bit more hesitant about sharing things. First time ever, because I've always thought it's a brilliant idea. Wash your hands, people. E-golf, wow, I'm saved. I drive a Model X and only use superchargers, no garage, on-street parking, 20 to 30 meters away from house. Right, sorry, wait a minute. I drive a Model X and only use superchargers. Sorry. Yes, well, exactly. And there are now rapid charging hubs being developed. The first one, which I mentioned, I think, on a recent news episode, GridServe are building one outside Braintree in Essex. Huge charging hub. So anyone who lives within 10, 15, 20 miles of that, who hasn't got anywhere off the street to park a car, it does not matter. You just drive down there, lovely cafe, lovely shop, nice upstairs relaxation room, lovely toilets. You're undercover because it's a massive solar panel over solar panels over the chargers. There's hundreds of chargers, so you won't have to wait to use one. They'll be incredibly high speed. All the electricity that goes into them is from renewable sources. They have massive batteries on site to make sure the chargers can dump power in at the maximum speed possible. So yeah, it's going to make it much more plausible. And I agree. Autonomous cars are a distraction. I think they kind of are. I want autonomous, fully autonomous passenger drones. Those are much more interesting. Those That's what I want. Much easier. I think it's easier. I know it sounds crazy. I think flying is easier than driving a car. Not for me. I'd be rubbish. But for machines. What do you make of the Polestar 2? Seen it in real life at a motor show. Stunning. I haven't driven it yet. What about self-charging vehicles? Well, obviously, Toyota, as we know, are at the absolute forefront of self-charging vehicles. They do require petrol, but they're self-charging. That's a really good thing. Okay, I think that's enough now. What is that with the current situation? Public charges are closed to the public. Are they? Wow. Oh, I see, because they're attached to places that have been closed. Yeah, this is going to be an issue. That was one of the things I thought the government is the only way you can do that is government need to step in and go, okay, you've got charges in your car park, your hotel or whatever, leisure centre or whatever is closed. Open your car parks to let people charge cars. Still pay for it. I'm not saying free charging. There was a discussion about that on Twitter earlier on today. It is quite a worry, that is. Some charges are closed in a few places. Yeah. Sir, would you like a waffle? Yeah, that's not quite relevant to what we're doing at the moment. Are we too tough on plug-in hybrid electric vehicles? The quickest way to get people to understand the technology? I just think that 5 years ago, absolutely, plug-in hybrid electric vehicles were a really important stepping stone, as in they were pushed and that was a thing. Now, it's just irrelevant. It's just pointless. All you're doing with a plug-in hybrid vehicle is hauling around a great big, heavy internal combustion engine and a massive tank of fuel. What's the point of doing that? Just have an electric car. The infrastructure and the range of the cars and the variety of the cars is so enormous now. You really don't need. I'd much rather people had a plug-in hybrid than a diesel. So I'm not saying they're awful, but a stop-gab. PHEVs are a stop-gab. Stop gabbing. Sorry, it's very easy to make a typo. I do it all the time. What do you think about the wireless charging, Hannah? Well, we were talking about wireless charging on the podcast, audio podcast that goes out tomorrow morning. I talked to Roger Atkins, who is he just knows everything. He knows everyone in the automotive industry and he knows everything that they're doing. And wireless charging is clearly, he's obsessed with it. It's going to be a big thing. It's got so much cheaper and easier to install than it was, say, 5-10 years ago when I first saw examples of it. It does make a lot of sense. I have driven an e-Golf and a BMW i3 at separate places where you just drive it into a parking space and as you move forward slowly, it goes beep, 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 bing, and it's charging. I've done nothing. I'm still sitting in the car. Turn the car off. Car's charging faster than it would if you plugged it in. It's 22 kilowatts. It's fantastic. So if the technology can be made cheap and accessible, then it's a brilliant thing. I think initially it's going to be for delivery vehicles and taxis, which is where you'll see it most of all. What has fully charged got in the future? We do have an amazing show about battery recycling from a big factory in Germany that's recycling vehicle batteries and utilizing 98% of the materials in those batteries to make new batteries. How many times can you use diesel? I've got a feeling it's once. So that's a really exciting show. That was presented by Helen Chesky. That's coming soon. We have a very exciting show about how effective electric vehicles are in very, very sub-zero temperatures, which also includes them going around a frozen lake sideways. So a little bit not top gear, but there's a little bit of top geary slidey stuff with electric vehicles. There's so many. Well, I'm doing episodes about the new Renault Zoe, the GT line R135. Electric vans we're doing very soon, the Peugeot E208, the Corsa, the electric Corsa, all those things are coming very soon. We've just been born. We're just born in the wrong generation to fully see EV possibilities. I hope, yeah. I don't know how old you are. I'm pretty knackered and ancient. If I make it to next week, I'm happy every morning I wake up and I'm not dead. I'm going, wow, result. What if Fully Charged and Colin Furze got together for EV Franken cars? There's some, not with Colin at the moment, although I'd love to work with Colin at some point because he is brilliant. He's just stunning. But there is some projects in the works, which of course are currently on hold, to do some big shows along those lines. don't want to say any more now. Isn't a battery just like a fuel tank, so comparison to diesel does not work? Because you're using electrons that are generated by renewable energy, and then once they're gone, but then you can recreate them without burning anything and without drilling something and transporting that fuel and refining it, which uses a lot of electricity, and storing it in a big tank and putting it in an engine and burning it really inefficiently. I think it is quite a good comparison, really. I mean, you could say, you know, you can recycle a fuel tank, the material that makes a fuel tank, which you do. I'm sure it does happen. Yeah, interesting. God, there's so many things coming in. There's still over 2,000 of you watching. Well, look, all I can say, look, I really think I should go. I've done 41 minutes. That's a lot. Let's leave it there. Please, you know, do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Because there is a lot of stuff coming up. We're doing a lot of interesting edits of material we've had for some time to make it more interesting. Obviously, we're very restricted in what we can film at the moment. There's nothing we can do about that. We're doing our best. Please have a look at the Patreon link, which is also will be underneath this video when this is when I've finished here, because that's what really does keep this show going. And I think, as always, as we say in the trade, as always, if you have been, thank you for watching.